Welcome to 40 Plus Fitness for Women. I'm Lynn, your host, and I help women in their 40s and 50s to look and feel amazing and prepare their bodies for the decades ahead. Welcome to 40 Plus Fitness for Women. I'm Lynn, your host, and today I'm going to be sharing about my own fat loss journey. I'm actually in the middle of it or getting close towards the end of it. And I've been sharing about it on my social media platforms, and people have been very curious about it. So I thought I would break it down in this podcast episode. So I will tell you about why I'm doing this, kind of my strategy for doing this, the main points of my plan, and also how that's been going. So if you are interested in someday doing a calorie deficit, seeing how that works for you, then this could be an interesting episode to listen to. So let's get into it. I want to start by saying that this is actually the very first diet I have ever been on. And I think I'm probably not relatable to most of the women that are listening to this, because I know, even looking at my friends and the women that I know, that most people have done cleanses, have done radical diets. They've tried this, that, the other, keto, whatever, all the things out there. And I think one of the reasons that I have never started into that track of doing a lot of dieting is that when I was little, I heard that if you diet, you can break your metabolism. And once you break your metabolism, you're never going to be able to eat properly again. And I believe that. So for my whole life, I have, rather than going on diets and doing 6 weeks of this, 12 weeks of that, I've really endeavored to eat in a healthy manner. And I was very lucky in that my parents taught me good eating habits. Now, this is not to say that I have not been through heavier phases of my life. For sure I have, and particularly with my pregnancies. And oh my goodness, I was humongous when I was pregnant. I would just let myself eat and I would gain a ton of weight. And even after pregnancy, when I'd given birth, and though I breastfed each of my children till about a year of age, the weight did not drop off like many people promise. So, but I don't know. I still never went on a diet because of this very strong belief I had that I will break my metabolism. So, but in addition to learning about weight training over the past year and a half or so, I have been learning a lot about nutrition and about fat loss in particular. And so I thought this would be a great time to test this on myself, see what it's really like to walk a mile or walk 12 weeks in a fat loss phase. And I have to say that I've learned really a lot. So now, the other thing that I have to say to start with is that weight training has definitely been a huge focus in this. So I would never, ever recommend that somebody start a fat loss phase if they are not weight training. And that is because if you are merely dieting, going into a calorie deficit, your body is going to have, what happens in a calorie deficit is that you're not feeding your body as many calories as it needs. So it's taking that energy from elsewhere. And what you want it to do is to take that energy from your fat stores. But your body is not actually that picky. It will also break down muscle. And that's something that, as a woman in midlife or anybody at any time, you definitely don't want to have happen. In fact, it's been estimated that 25 to 30% of the weight that you lose will come out of your muscles if you're not weight training at the same time. So I am Definitely not trying to lose any of my muscle. So I will be covering my weight training journey because I've also had body recomp going on before this fat loss phase. So please listen to that episode. It'll be the next one after this one. Subscribe to make sure that you don't miss it. But in any case, when I started on my weight training journey, so this was about 12 months ago that I got really, really serious about it. And I decided that I am going to start by building muscle. And the reason that I started with that is that I had a little bit of extra on me. And if I had gone into a calorie deficit at that point in time, it would have been just harder to build the muscle. And what I knew was that what I wanted as my final result is to look lean and athletic, a bit like I have done in my 20s and 30s and 40s and yeah, up until my 50s actually, when the menopause changes to my body actually made me more fluffy and got rid of my muscles. So I really wanted to get back to looking the way that I am used to looking, right? And I'm a divorced woman, so for me, maybe that's even a tiny bit more important because the dating scene being what it is nowadays, very, very superficial. But I think that a lot of women also want to keep themselves looking good for themselves and also for their husbands or significant others. So anyway, so my plan of attack was to first build as much muscle as possible and then see what body recomp happens at the same time. And now I've been doing this calorie deficit to try to reduce fat. So here's the outline of my 12-week plan. And I couldn't believe when I was starting, actually, that I was going to spend 3 months doing all these things. It just felt like, oh my God. So my goal was to lose as much fat as possible without losing any muscle and making it a sustainable enough thing that I can actually do it for 12 weeks. And I have a really busy life. I have the kids half of the time. I work a full-time job. I'm building this business, this personal training business. So needless to say, I don't have time for a lot of extra stuff. So here was my plan. I'm going to first list these, and then I'll go into each of these in a little bit more depth. But so first was a 500 calorie per day calorie deficit, high protein, so 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's 145 grams of protein for me per day. I wanted to make sure I was maintaining my non-exercise activity. So I put a target actually of 8,000 steps a day. Quality sleep, making sure I was getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Weight training 4 times a week. Okay, sometimes 3 if my schedule got really busy, but really prioritizing the weight training as far as one of my exercises. Keeping my cardio at the same level that it was, which is a cardio class about every other week. So that may sound like very little, but I'll talk more about that later. And then I weighed myself every single morning. So those are the 7 components of my plan. So sounds pretty simple. And the thing about fat loss is that it is fairly simple, like the guidelines are fairly simple, but following them, the rubber hitting the road, that's where it gets difficult. So it's simple, but for sure, not easy. So let's start with the most important part of fat loss, which is, of course, what you're eating. So, and this was actually one of my biggest fears, is that once I had to start paying attention to what I was eating, I would become obsessed with food and I would just be feeling hungry all the time and wanting to eat all the time. And I have to say that hasn't happened to me. And I've been really, really pleased with that. but I had a really good strategy going in with this. So I have been extremely, extremely consistent with, I measure everything I eat. Nothing goes into my mouth if I haven't weighed it. Okay. So I have a little scale right there in my kitchen, and next to it is a pad of paper. And if I want to eat something, it goes via that scale and onto that piece of paper. And then I record everything into an app called Fat Secret. Now, weighing everything and recording everything, that sounds quite straightforward. Yeah, no problem. Until you start cooking stuff, right? And then you have a recipe and you're like, okay, so now I made spaghetti sauce. How many calories is in spaghetti sauce? Well, then you have to weigh everything that you're sticking in the spaghetti sauce as you're cooking it. And then that gives you the total amount of calories that that batch of spaghetti sauce has. And then what I would do is I would weigh that final product of spaghetti sauce. And then I know how many calories per gram of spaghetti sauce there was. But that was like the first thing that I was like, oh, this is not so easy. And as a result, I am actually eating like the same recipes over and over again because it's such a pain in the butt. But weighing everything and putting everything in that calculator, I have learned so, so, so much. I was used to, hey, my kids are making sandwiches and they're slicing cheese, and I love cheese. So I would just like grab a slice and eat it, or, pop a tomato, a cherry tomato in my mouth because I have them sitting out in my kitchen. I just like, grab one of those as I was walking by. No, none of that anymore. Everything goes via the scale, via the book. So boring eating makes it much, much easier for you. And the thing that has also made this easy for me is that, or that's made this easier for me, is that I have planned out how I'm going to eat. So I have divided my meals into 4 meals a day, plus I take a protein shake after my workout. So my body has now gotten used to this timing of meals. I eat my breakfast at about 8. I have lunch between 11 and 12. I have a snack at 3. I have my protein shake after my workout. I work out in the afternoon. And then after my workout, so the dinner is a little bit less exactly at a particular time because it depends on when my workout is and whether I have a workout that day. But in any case, so this has really helped me to get through the day because I know there's food coming up and I feel like my brain and my body doesn't like panic so much about, oh my God, when am I going to eat next? Because it knows it's going to eat next. And then I split my protein dose between those 5 feedings, whatever you want to call them. And of course, my protein shake is a very important part of this because just going through food, yeah, I would get I think that would be much harder to hit my protein target. So my breakfast is always 2 eggs. And then I have a piece of bread, and I have some either Greek yogurt or something called skyr, which is a high protein dairy product. And yeah, it's the same thing every time. I might change the bread. So there's some variety for you. And then I change how my eggs are done. So for a while, I was doing always hard-boiled eggs, which was super easy because I could boil like 10 of them, put them in the fridge, and then I'd had breakfast ready to go like for 5 days. And then I got kind of tired of that after about a month that I switched to sunny side up eggs. Now I'm doing scrambled eggs. but in any case, like every morning, it's 2 eggs as the basis with the because eggs actually, I mean, yeah, they have high protein, but it's not going to be enough because I'm trying to get like the 24, 25 to 35 grams per meal. Then my lunch is generally like that spaghetti sauce that I talked about. So I have some kind of protein. and either spaghetti sauce, or I've made like a ground chicken kind of dish that's I actually got more of an Asian flavor to it. So I swap between those, and then I have pasta. So I change what the shape of the pasta is. So, I mean, this eating is really boring, but it doesn't actually bother me because it's easy. And plus, I'm thinking of the food as it's fuel for my body. I'm not like looking for some kind of foodie gourmet experience in my day-to-day life. I want it to be easy. I want it to be healthy, and I want it, to be good enough. And I eat a lot of non-fat cottage cheese. So even if I'm having the spaghetti sauce, I will put some cottage cheese with it because that ups the protein without upping a lot of fat. Yeah, then my snack is almost always cottage cheese and cherry tomatoes. I just love that. And I have a slice of bread with that. And that is generally also my pre-workout kind of meal, because working out on an empty stomach, then your body is thinking, oh no, I don't have any fuel to fuel this workout. And then it may start to get more stressed. And we don't really want to more stress your body, because then it will start breaking down potentially muscle more than it would otherwise. So I'd always have that kind of a snack. And then right after my workout, which 4 days a week is weight training, I have my protein shake. Even if I go for cardio, it is that protein shake. Then I get home and have a proper meal, which is usually pretty much the same thing that I had for lunch, or maybe I'll have both those things made, and I'll have the spaghetti sauce in the afternoon and then the ground chicken in the evening. I mean, obviously, if you're into cooking, if you're into prepping, there are tons and tons of more interesting ways to eat than just having the same thing all the time. I am not saying that you need to do that, but for me, this was easy, and I don't mind eating the same thing all the time. So this worked super well for me and has been working super well for me. And during this whole time, I have had 3 special occasions, and this is how I've handled them. So the first one was my own birthday party. I had invited a whole bunch of friends out to dinner, and I chose a restaurant on purpose where there are like foods that have a lot of protein. It was a tapas place. So everybody could choose what they wanted. And then I picked tapas that had a lot of, were more meat-based, chicken tapas, egg tapas, these kinds of things. And then I could decide to eat a little bit less. I wasn't super stressed about, hey, I need to stay in my calorie deficit on my birthday. I mean, come on. So I figured, even if I eat what I would normally eat, right? The fact that all the rest of my days this week have been, adhering to my plan, I am still in really good shape for that. And then there was my son's confirmation party where I hadn't, calculated all, it was at my house. So I could have actually decided to calculate exactly the number of calories and everything that I put on the table, but I decided not to. And there too, I was just like, I'm not going to like go to town on the cakes and everything. I'm just going to have a little slice, and, I'm not going to sweat it. It's not like I went off my plan because I had 3 days that I didn't track so perfectly and stay under it. Now, the other thing I'll say is that I do go out, I really enjoy going out with my friends, and yeah, we have a few drinks and might even, have stuff there to eat. And that is something I have tracked, because I also wanted to understand how much the alcohol was affecting my calories overall. So I started really like writing down, okay, I had a glass of wine, I had a glass of bubbly, whatever the drinks were. And I started writing them down. When I wrote them down the first time, I actually did this before I went out with my friends. I knew I love gin and tonics. I could have a beer at a bar. I could have a glass of wine. I wanted to figure out like, okay, so if I'm going to drink alcohol, how do how do I maximize my calorie budget and still enjoy my evening? So I figured that out for myself and definitely tracked my alcohol. What it has meant for me on the days that I go out is that I am eating less. Yeah, and drinking. So you can imagine it doesn't feel so great. And that has encouraged me to maybe drink a little less and eat a little bit more so I don't feel so bad. And then the other thing that I have done is that I look at my calories over the course of a week, and the app that I use, this Fat Secret tracking app, it shows you your entire week, and it'll show you your average calories per day for the whole week. So what I often find, and this has surprised me, is that instead of eating the whole 1,700 calories in a day, I might have eaten 1,650 or even just 1,600, and at the end of the day, I'm thinking to myself, am I actually like hungry? Do I need this like last 100 calories? On the one hand, I don't want to go too low because I don't want to stress my body out too much. I don't want it to start eating from my muscle reserves. But at the same time, I think like 50, 100 calories, maybe not going to like break the bank as far as that goes. So then I've, in a way, accumulated a little bit of extra that I can use up on the weekend. But for sure, I am not hitting the kebab restaurant after a night out partying. So it has changed my behavior in those kinds of ways. Hey, I wanted to run an idea by you. I've been thinking about how to help more women get started weight training. I've been mulling over offering an online group program where women from all over could do this together virtually. So instead of one-on-one coaching, it would be me coaching a group of women at the same time. I was thinking it could happen in a Facebook group where we could all hang out, share training wins, ask questions, and get support and encouragement from the community, and of course, from me too. What do you think? Is this something that might appeal to you? Now, this is just an idea at this stage, but if this is something that could actually interest you, please let me know by signing up for the wait list. Now, signing up is not an obligation to join, but if I do end up creating such a group program, you'd be the first to know and be able to join at a discounted price as a founding member. Most likely, I would launch this in the fall of 2023. You can join the waitlist at www.befitafter40.com/group, and I'll also pop the link in the show notes. It would really help if you would join the waitlist so I can get a feeling for whether this is actually interesting to my audience or not. Now, back to the show. And one other thing I should address is, how did I choose this 500 calorie deficit? Well, so my normal maintenance calories is somewhere between 2,000 and 2,200. I think it's closer to 2,200 because literally I am one of those people who, if my kids are slicing cheese to put on their sandwiches, I'll grab 1 or 2 or 3 slices. I also used to eat a lot of olives. Oh my God, I had no idea they had so much fat in them. I'm like, this tiny little olive, what? So yeah, I think that my normal has been closer to 2,200. And I used a bunch of calculators that are online, and also actually my gym, when I had my body composition measured, they suggested what my maintenance calories would be, and then I just took 500 off of that. So that's how I came to that. So 1,700 may not sound very low, but I have gotten very nice results with it, and it's been extremely sustainable. Okay, so now we've covered like the calorie deficit and how I'm getting in the protein and how I am organizing my food. And honestly, I have really not felt hungry very often. I'm expecting, of course, I'm never feeling like stuffed, right? And yes, I start to feel hungry before I get my next meal. And actually, even more than feeling actual hunger, which I will feel a little bit, but I start to feel like I'm completely out of energy, like a car that's run out of gas and isn't moving forward anymore. And that's when I'm like looking at the clock, realizing, time to refuel my body. And then I go do that. So the third thing on my list was maintaining my non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So what we know is that when people are in a calorie deficit, their body will automatically adjust and use less calories. And it'll adjust in very, very sneaky ways that you will not even notice. You won't wave your arms as much when you're talking. You won't stand. You'll be lazier about moving in general. All kinds of subtle ways. If you're somebody who normally wiggles their feet or fidgets in a chair, you'll stop doing that. And I have definitely noticed this. I am like a bump on a log. I come to my desk in the morning and, oh my God, it takes a lot of willpower to raise the desk up and even being in a standing position. So I definitely noticed that I'm just less likely to get up and move or go grab this or reach over to get that. I'm just a bump on a log. So this neat roll has been essential for me. I have made sure that I walk 8,000 steps a day. And actually, I increased that recently because I noticed I am so not moving otherwise. Like my non-exercise movement has really dropped enormously. Now, getting in 8,000 or 10,000 steps a day is challenging. It takes time, right? I used to try to do it by taking walks every day, taking breaks, which I still do. I take breaks every hour. I'll actually walk downstairs, get something to drink to make sure I stay hydrated and come back up, try to move a little bit. When I'm posting on social media or scrolling on social media, I'll try to pace back and forth here in my office or in the hall. So yeah, but getting in 8,000 or 10,000 steps, it takes some doing. And luckily, I have now purchased a walk pad, and that has been my savior. So twice a day, I move my desk up into a standing position and I walk on my walk pad while I'm working. And that enables me to get that 10,000 steps without causing me a lot of extra stress. Because I can just imagine if I put a condition on myself, like, hey, get 10,000 extra steps. That's like an hour of walking outside, could be a little bit more. And I just don't have that time, right? So if I can do it at the same time as I'm editing my podcast, for example, then that is perfect. Then fourth thing was quality sleep. So getting sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. And sleep is so important because when you are sleep deprived, your hunger and satiety hormones go out of whack. Plus, your energy is going to be even worse. So like I just talked about, that your energy is lower when you're in a calorie deficit. If you're tired and in a calorie deficit, oh my God, it's really awful. I actually had one experience where my two teenagers, woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning one morning. They were screaming at each other upstairs. One of them had woken the other, and the other got pissed off about it. Anyway, so mom comes upstairs, and I'm like, holy cow, what's going on? And of course, could not fall asleep again after that. So I had like this 4.5 hour night of sleep when I normally need 8. And the whole next day, I was dragging, worse than any hangover I've ever had, because I wasn't hungover. I was just so tired. And all I wanted to do was drink coffee, Coke, caffeine, and eat sugar. And, these are the things you want to do because you're thinking like, oh, this will give me energy if I just, put some more fuel in my engine. So that was probably the hardest day, that one and the next day, because I don't recover from these sleepless nights quite as well as I did when I was 20. But those were probably the hardest 2 days of this diet that I've had. Yeah, I'm 52, by the way. So quality sleep, make sure you're getting your sleep. Then 5 was the weight training 4 times a week. So this relates back to, I wanted to make sure I'm losing fat, not muscle, right? Muscle takes so much time, effort, patience, hours, days, weeks, months, years to build. I don't want to lose any more of that than, I can help. So I have been really, really strict about the weight training, and I am showing up at the gym and I am applying progressive overload. I have started doing slightly shorter sets because I find the longer sets are really tiring now that I'm tired. But I want to make sure that I'm getting that stimulation to my body to let my body know that, yeah, I still need these big, strong muscles, to manage in my daily life. So I am hitting the gym. And I have definitely noticed I have less energy to do my workouts, and I have not made as much progress as before. So my progress right now is, at the tune of, I might get one more rep than I got last week. So I'm doing, let's say, shoulder presses, 3 sets at the same weight. And this week I get 777. Next week I'll get 778. I mean, it is really, really, really slow progress, but I'm still in there doing it. And yeah, I think that if I have to say anything that is super important for my goal, which is to lose the fat, I don't care about the number on the scale. I care about losing the subcutaneous and the fat in my belly. Then number 6, so about cardio. So cardio would not actually, it's not part of my plan. It's just I'm maintaining the cardio that I already had. And I do believe in cardiovascular health. I think that is important to pay attention to our heart health. And I certainly wasn't going to drop that out while I was in this fat loss phase. So I've continued that. And what I have really noticed there is that I don't have quite the energy that I used to have when I was eating at maintenance. And B, that it does put me in a state where I am craving more carbohydrates afterwards than I am when I'm doing a weight training session. But that's fine, because for me, my calorie target is really around calories and protein. So I don't care if the rest of it comes in as fat or as carbs. But I noticed that after my dance class, which is the way that I'm doing my high intensity cardio, I want more carbs. So I will have the spaghetti or whatever. Yeah, a little bit more of the pasta in my spaghetti sauce for the next, that meal after my workout. And also, usually it carries over until the next day. And this brings us really nicely into number 7, which is that I have been weighing myself on a daily basis. Every morning, as soon as I get up, I use the bathroom and then hop on the scale and I write down my weight. And what we know is that women who are still cycling, their weight may fluctuate quite a bit over the course of the month. And I have noticed that even us non-cycling women have that same effect. And this is something that I'm really, really glad that I have been doing. I know some people may have complexes about looking at their weight. And for sure, even I, knowing that it shouldn't matter or anything, if I have a day where my weight's gone down, I'm like, woohoo, right direction. And then if it's suddenly gone up half a kilo, I'm like, wow, what's going on? So yeah, it's not the easiest thing on earth. And the thing that I've done is I have weighed myself every single day. And then at the end of a week, I average out what I have weighed that week. And I have followed that because honestly, my weight does fluctuate a lot over the course of the week. Okay, so my results so far. So I am just about 9 weeks into this great adventure, and I have lost 3 kilos. So that's 6.6 pounds so far. And this has not been like this linear downward progression. It has kind of fluctuated over time. Uh, Average is about half a kilo a week, but maybe a little bit less than that. But what's been really, really interesting about actually looking at the weights every single day is that they're slowly trending downward. So the first week that I measured every single day, I had all of the numbers were 66 point something, and then there was one 66.7, 67 in there in the mix. Okay. But then in the following week, there were no 67s in the mix, and there was even a 65 point something in the mix. So like, you could see like the set of numbers was getting smaller. And then after that, we had only 65s, no more 66s showing up in that set. And then that continued for another week. And then we started seeing some 64 point somethings showing up in there. And the 65s started disappearing. And then there were like a mix of them again. And now last week, we had all with 64s and even one with 63 point something. So it's like this, it's been kind of fun just to watch. But like I said, the mornings when it goes up, it is a bit like, wah. And one thing I've really noticed there is that if I've been eating a lot of carbs the day before, then it'll go up, right? Because when you eat carbs, your body retains more water. That's why if you go on a low carb diet, you're going to lose weight like chunks really quickly because it's water weight that you're losing. And so the same way, if I have gone to my dance class and then I'm eating a lot of carbs as a result, then my weight's going to go up. Even though I've just had a tough cardio class, you might imagine that I would have burned calories there and therefore lost weight, but no. And I guess the biggest learnings, to summarize some of the things that I said earlier, is that I'm surprised that I'm not hungry very often, or at least not that kind of like, oh my God, when do I get to eat next? Which was kind of what I was expecting. But I really credit this to having regular meal times and eating a lot of protein, plus making sure that my sleep is on point. Those things, I think that is the recipe to surviving, to really surviving a calorie deficit. I definitely notice a huge decrease in my non-exercise activity. Like I said, I am a bump on a log. And so for this reason, I feel that counting your steps when you're in a calorie deficit is really essential, and making sure that you're moving, because otherwise your body is going to sabotage your efforts by making you not move. And then definitely the weight room training is so much harder. Like I said, not much progress going on with the weights, but at the same time, I can see my muscle definition so much better because I am losing the body fat. Even my boyfriend, who totally doesn't notice these kinds of things, the other day is like, wow, I can see your bicep. Hey, is that your six pack starting to show? This kind of thing. So, and he is not a scrutinizer of my body that way at all. So, yeah. And I guess the very, very best thing about this whole journey, and it is not just about the calorie deficit, because it started with all those months. I mean, I've been weight training regularly, consistently for a year now. So it is all that weight training work that I have been putting in that I'm finally being able to reveal. And I am feeling more like myself, because that's how I identify as somebody who is fit, who looks athletic, who looks fit. not like somebody who looks like a bodybuilder, but somebody who looks like they could actually do something, right? That they're in good shape. And that has been just so rewarding for me. Looking forward to maintaining that. So I hope this helped some of you understand what all goes into this kind of calorie deficit and getting yourself back into being like fit and toned looking when you're in perimenopause or postmenopause like I am. It requires a good plan, a lot of discipline, structure, consistency, patience, time, all the things also that muscle building requires. But I feel a lot better now that I'm stronger and looking more like my old self, and feeling super, super happy with that. So let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear, do you have any additional questions? Because I will do one more episode once this is all done, because I am going to have my body composition measured when it's finished. I'm very, very curious to see how much muscle I've lost. I'm hoping not much. And then I will start on the journey back up to figuring out my new maintenance calories. Because the idea here is not to yo-yo diet, get slim for summer and then gain it all back. I am hoping to have found a really, really sustainable strategy for myself to stay looking lean and firm and feeling young, and my body feeling good and strong and capable, for the rest of my life, and not just 12 weeks. So I'd love to hear what you thought of the episode. Hit me up in my DMs at Be Fit After 40 with Lynn. I really, really love to hear from you. I've had some messages come from fans of the podcast, and it just really, really warms my heart. These take hours and hours to put out. So it is great to hear that somebody is getting use out of them. And if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear what is, the end result, make sure that you subscribe. And I'll also have that episode describing my weight training journey and what has happened before I even went into this calorie deficit, because already then I had changes to my body happening, measurable ones. So until next time, happy training. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of 40 Plus Fitness for Women. If you're enjoying the podcast and want to show your appreciation, please hit the subscribe button. That helps me to reach more listeners because it signals to the podcast algorithm gods that this is a good show. Talk to you next week.